Over the years, we humans have taken great delight in making rivers do our bidding. Damming them, dividing them, straightening them.
It's a classic case of human hubris to think that we can control a system as large and complicated as a river system.
But nature does bat last and probably always will.
We just can't keep doing the things the same old way. I think that we need to embrace some change.
Restoring Rivers, next on Outdoor Idaho.
Funding for Outdoor Idaho is made possible by the Laura Moore Cunningham Foundation, committed to fulfilling the Moore and Bettis family legacy of building the great state of Idaho, by the Friends of Idaho Public Television, by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.
Rivers and streams, we tend to think of them as the veins of the planet, the lifeblood of civilizations. Here in Idaho, our mountainous terrain has positioned us well. Hi, I'm Bruce Reichert, and welcome to Outdoor Idaho. You know, in our search for riches, we have not always been kind to rivers, and our efforts at managing for floods and droughts has left us with some pretty unnatural waterways. But the work of restoring rivers has begun, even as we continue to search for the best ways forward. It was miners who jump-started Idaho's entry into the Union. Adventurous men desperate to find gold by dint of hard work and ingenuity. And in the 1860s, they found it, using gold pans and sluice boxes. Water was key to this placer mining since gold is heavier and will sink to the bottom as the rest is washed away. The 20th century saw a revolution in placer mining with the introduction of the dredge, a two-story boat-like structure attached to a rotating line of buckets. It could scoop up tons of stream bank and riverbed, sorting out the heavier metals like gold and spitting out the rest as tailings. It literally turned the landscape upside down. In the fabled Boise Basin, several hundred acres of these dredge tailings still dominate the landscape, along Morse Creek near Idaho City and Grimes Creek near Centerville. In 2006, Trout Unlimited and the U.S. Forest Service began work to restore areas along Morse Creek. They also did some planting along parts of Grimes Creek, beginning in 2011. And now they are attempting the same thing on the Yankee Fork, a tributary of the Salmon River, where Chinook salmon still navigate the 7 miles of upheaval from this 1940s gold dredging operation.
There's been big paradigm shifts in Idahoans and in Americans in general in how we care for the land and care for our fish and wildlife resources. And I think we can learn lessons from our past.
The goal here is to take a simplified river channel with little or no in-stream structure and make it complex again. And that's where the heavy equipment comes in. Some of these dredge tailings need to be rearranged. The process can look a little messy, a lot like a highway project. But the result is an expanded floodplain which hopefully will benefit everyone, including fish and wildlife.
When you give it the complexity it needs and restore the floodplain, you actually start to retain the wood and the gravel and the silt and all those things that make good fish habitat. And so just restoring that one function has a domino effect on all of the other things that make fish habitat good quality fish habitat.
Crews have planted native vegetation to improve shade and reduce water temperature. And there's a big emphasis on increasing habitat complexity to provide cover for fish.
The biggest reason to fix this watershed and other watersheds like it in Idaho is that the fish and the wildlife and the vegetation community are what make Idaho unique. And that is as much of an Idahoan's heritage as some of our other heritage in the state, such as mining or our logging history.
Multiple agencies and organizations are in on this multi-year project. They've already spent $7 million changing the floodplain, reconnecting tributaries, building campsites, and improving access to nearby recreation areas.
One of the things that I've learned is that when you bring a group of folks together that are passionate about fish, passionate about watersheds, and you can focus on a common goal, you can accomplish anything you set your mind to.
Some of the tailings are going back into the river. Some are going to the county for road grade. And yes, some of the rock piles are staying.
I think it's a really good reminder of the things that we used to do, some of them good, some of them bad. If we got rid of all the dredge tailings, that story wouldn't be there, and the stories are really important.
So important that mining families who still keep the dredge open to the public for tours think the piles should stay.
I'd leave the tailings, no question. That's what this valley is about. This valley is about mining. It's not about fishing. What happened is happened. That's what happened in those days, and that was acceptable in those days. It's already there. Why destroy it for a couple fish?
A few fish matter. I think balancing fish values and landscape values and culture and heritage values is entirely possible and doable. And it's just about people communicating those values to each other and sometimes compromising.
So how do you know when restoration efforts like this have been successful?
The river tells you, because it starts working naturally again. That's how you know if a restoration project was done well and that you've truly restored natural processes, as the river tells you by the way it functions.
Restoring a river takes more than a physical change in the landscape. It also takes a change in attitude. The Portneuf River is confined to a concrete channel in Pocatello. Flood control for houses that are a small backyard away from its banks. The 50-year-old cement chute is reaching the end of its lifespan. So now is the time to develop a new vision for the waterway.
This is not the Boise River. We're not going to have huge flows in the summer. And understanding what we do have for flows, how that impacts water quality, and where we should spend our resources to get the biggest bang for our buck. If the community wants a healthy-looking river, then these are things we need to do first.
The City of Pocatello, the Army Corps of Engineers, and state and federal agencies have started the effort to restore the Portneuf by forming a working group to decide what the river should be. And they asked researchers from Idaho State University for help.
When we plant potatoes?
The scientists started by surveying stakeholders.
They wanted it to be an economic benefit to the city, but they wanted it to be a healthy environment where kids could go into the water, where you could have school kids learning about different aspects of river environments, and something that would just be beneficial to the community.
And to better understand the Portneuf vision, scientists are using technology to help residents see options about how their river could be transformed.
Using the input of parcel data and land use data and work is put into a model, and then we can project different kind of scenario of the city development. They want to see what is the future of the city, what is the future of the river.
The working group made suggestions to the City Council as part of a multi-year process to restore the Portneuf inside the city limits. But that's only half the job.
It's also important to improve or measure the quality of water that passes through the Portneuf. We know that the Portneuf is a muddy river, and one reason it's muddy is because of the contribution by a tributary stream, Marsh Creek, which is located 10 or 20 miles upstream.
Sediment itself is a vector. It carries along pathogens. It also diminishes the ecosystem health.
Scientists have monitored water quality in Marsh Creek for decades, but they've never been able to pinpoint the sources of the sediment. These researchers theorized that it was coming from 3 potential places.
First, the livestock access to the riverbanks that can cause erosion and a source of sediment. The second is the construction of levees, which eliminates floodplains and marshes from existing in Marsh Creek. And the third is a large pond that's in the upper part of Marsh Creek called the Rat Pond.
Set the location, so now you guys are...
You're gonna go every meter, Graham?
Go every meter.
One of the things that we're doing that's unique is we are measuring at multiple locations along the river what the water quality is. And by measuring at many different locations along the main stem, we can identify hot spots where more sediment might be being generated than other locations.
After 2 years of research, the scientists now think most of the sediment comes from the tall, unstable stream banks in the lower half of the creek. Scientists also suggest creating a handful of constructed wetlands to trap sediment at key points. But implementing such conservation efforts will be tough. The land is owned by dozens of different people, making a coordinated effort difficult. But to restore the Portneuf, landowners along the tributaries and residents inside the city limits will have to work together.
As we improve water quality in a place like Marsh Creek, not only do we reap ecosystem benefits, but also the human system benefits from this as well. People feel much more connected to a river and want to play in or interact with something where they can see the bed of the river, where they can see fish swimming around in the water, instead of something that looks like chocolate milk flowing downstream.
It's just a matter of time for a project on the Blackfoot River also. Here, rancher Kent Allen is using his coveted water rights for cattle without cutting into the fish population as many irrigation canals do.
My family's enjoyed fishing all of my life and my dad's life and my grandfather, and so we like to take care of the fishing aspect of it, but we make our living off of the grasses and the livestock up here.
Allen's operation definitely requires water to produce beef.
But years ago you could use it all and nobody cared, but now it's a precious commodity and you've got to really take care of what water you've got.
This new $400,000 diversion promises better efficiencies with consistent delivery and a self-cleaning fish screen, so the water delivered to cows doesn't include fish.
This one right here is right out in front of God and everybody, and people are looking at it and they're paying attention to kind of what's going on. And if you get one of these that works really well, then farmers talk to each other, ranchers talk to each other all the time. They're gonna say, well, how's that new project working out there for you? And if you get a positive response, if it is working good, like it should be, then that gets things moving.
Allen agreed to be one of the first in the area to upgrade his irrigation because he knew his current system wasn't ideal for his herd of 3,000 cows, or the school of fish trying to swim the Blackfoot running through his pasture.
I felt like we needed a change real bad, and I had confidence in it that it would be a lot better than it was before. And they also said that if it wasn't, they'd make it right and make it work. So that's why I did it. I think it's a good thing. I think it's opened some eyes, and I think it'll help out several of the ranchers around.
Ranchers around Curlew National Grassland have their eye on another project, this one for grouse instead of trout.
The grasslands are home to the sage grouse.
Curlew National Grassland is 47,000 acres of desert country with skinny creeks cutting through the sagebrush. Sage grouse use those creeks and the sparse green around them to survive in the desert. Ranchers and farmers rely on the same limited supply.
Water is incredibly valuable in this area, and I think you could expand that to anywhere in the West. not only for the livestock and farmers and ranchers, but also for wildlife. It's the key resource here in this landscape.
Erosion is an issue here. So is bank drop-off. Rock Creek is severely downcut, up to 20 feet deep in places.
We did this to the landscape. We're raising cows and raising grain and everything else. We're hard on the landscape. It's hard for me to just walk away. These systems are screaming for help. And when we want to allow them to naturally migrate and shift like they do, you can almost feel like they come alive.
Tara Hicks helps them come alive.
My goal when I go in the water is to not muck it up, but I do muck it up. There is definitely some turbidity during the construction, but in the end, it's better.
She operates equipment that's so large it seems to swallow the whole system in one scoop. But she's methodical, and her moves are as delicate as one can be in the mud.
There's a nice sod bed on top of that bank, and if I just go in there and pull it all out, then I don't have anything to put back on top. So it's very strategic on how to juggle and where I can set sod, where I can pick it back up and it's not going to tear something up underneath it.
Hicks and her husband started in road construction more than 2 decades ago. Now, 50% of their business is restoration related.
And people aren't as afraid as they were when we first started the restoration projects to allow a big piece of machinery in the rivers.
Carrie Matthews is also seeing a change in business. She's in charge of permitting this kind of work.
I'm not out there to try to slap you on the hand and make you feel like a bad person. I just want you to understand that river and stream's important too.
Permits for stream straightening are down. Permits for river restoration are up.
Those numbers keep increasing, and I don't see that it's going to change anytime soon.
Well, 30 years ago, or more than that ago, they were straightening the rivers. I can't dig a straight line, so I do pretty well in a river system. We like the sinuosity for sure. And you still get the farmers out there that disagree with what we're doing. Some people might not ever be on that same page, but I think there's enough people that realize the importance of it to get it back where it used to be.
While grouse and trout may have priority in southern Idaho, in the Panhandle, priority goes to the sturgeon. The currents of the Kootenai travel far to reach northern Idaho, flowing from the Canadian Rockies and through Montana before entering the state's Panhandle. This is the largest river in the area, and it's a vital resource for the Kootenai tribe. They've lived along its shores for generations.
One of the biggest things that it meant to the tribe was it was kind of like a highway. They traveled up and down the Kootenai River to get from one place to another.
The tribe follows a covenant from the Creator, handed down to them by their ancestors.
We have created Kootenai people to look after this beautiful land. To this day, we've kind of honored that covenant, and that drives us forward.
It may be one of the reasons they've become so involved in helping the white sturgeon of the river. The sturgeon are sacred to the tribe. They are also endangered. Dams and other river alterations decimated their numbers. Only about 1,000 wild sturgeon are left in this stretch of the Kootenai.
When the sturgeon went onto the endangered species list, there really wasn't any program that was being put into place. So we stepped in and says, well, why don't we do something?
One of the things the tribe does is restore natural habitat. They've added deep pools and bank stabilization at critical points along the Kootenai corridor.
A lot of those techniques that were used for revegetating different aquatic habitat, that helps pretty much the whole ecosystem, trying to reestablish it within the confines of what can be done.
The habitat work is only part of the picture. More than 25 years ago, the tribe started helping sturgeon with a small hatchery on the river. Now they have a new, larger hatchery and are spearheading a huge restoration effort on the Kootenai. They work with nearly 24 partners from different agencies, states, and even countries.
The hatchery itself, that's the Kootenai tribe's main role, and we oversee the aquaculture production.
In order to acquire eggs and sperm for the hatchery, tribal members have to do something the public can't do on this river: go fishing for sturgeon.
It certainly brightens everybody's spirits when we catch fish, bring it in, and it's a good fish for the program. Yeah, it's the highlight of probably everybody's job.
From the river, the adult sturgeon are transported back to the hatchery, where they add their genetic mix to the breeding program.
We'll collect a batch of eggs from a female. We'll segregate that into 3 smaller batches, and then we'll take a male and add the sperm to each of those 3 batches to make 3 different family groups. And that will integrate the genetics that the spawning fish out in the natural river from that year would be doing naturally if they were successful.
Once the eggs and sperm are collected, the sturgeon are released back into the waters of the Kootenai. It's all part of a decades-long effort to both reproduce sturgeon and improve their habitat.
The long-term goal is not to have a hatchery program. It is for the fish to be able to find the appropriate habitat, survive through all their life stages, and self-propagate.
We've seen fish in the places where they hadn't been, just a few years ago. So that's a positive sign to us, and we are going in the right direction.
Restoration work is gaining traction in urban areas too, and Idaho Falls is extending its Riverwalk with award-winning results.
We got rid of the junk and started stacking rocks, and it just grew from there.
Mounds of black basalt blown out of the Snake River to create a channel for the city's hydropower plant decades ago are going back on the banks as the city's newly created rock garden.
It sat there forever, and as the city started to think about enhancing the river system right in the central business district, it was like finding a treasure. It was truly like walking in a cave, and all of that rock was gold, and it was like, can we put this in the park and use it? And absolutely, we should use it. It's part of the heritage of the river system and the evolution of the use of the river system, and it's a perfect story to tell.
This was a trash pit, an old landfill where folks just put everything. It is a night and day transformation from where it was to what it is now, and we're not done.
Remnants of trash are still stuck in some of the tree trunks, which now make up tiered flower beds boasting thousands of blooms.
I think it's what sets Idaho Falls apart. We are known for the falls, we're known for the river, and we want to continue to have that image from that system reflect upon us as a community and what we value.
The Rock Garden was named Best Park Project in the state in 2016. It's also recognized with multiple Smart Growth honors.
What we've done is take something that was a real detriment, a trash pit, and turned it into something beautiful, and now the adjacent property, we're seeing the economic multipliers occur from spurring development. So now hundreds of millions of dollars have been invested in this stretch of river, and when you beautify an area, people want to be there. It just makes sense, right? So I think people need to recognize that it is a great, important natural resource that we need to value and preserve and protect. There's nothing like this on the entire banks of the Snake River. Nothing like it. I mean, if that doesn't say something about us being creative and unique with our resources and our funding to create a one-of-a-kind facility. It's not quite finished, but when I think it is finished, I think that the nation will take particular interest in this site.
And in all of the restoration sites, returning rivers to a more natural shape across the Gem State.
We're in a time period now that maybe we don't always want to control water. That maybe water itself has some natural functions that are quite valuable to us.
Agriculture and industry never take a backseat, but they're making room for resource restoration in the front seat.
I think we can do it all. The thing is we got to do it smarter than we have in the past, and that requires change, and that's taking people out of their comfort zone. And we need to push that comfort zone in order to make progress and make it a win-win for everybody.
I would really like to see an Idaho where we get our rivers back to a fairly natural state like they used to be and in a functional state like they used to be, and you won't need river restoration specialists anymore.
For now, the to-do list is long. The work seems endless. But one wet mile at a time, Idaho is restoring its rivers.
It's extremely rewarding when you get in there and saying, hey, we're now making a difference in restoring the stream and bringing it back to life. It's just an incredible thing.
Funding for Outdoor Idaho is made possible by the Laura Moore Cunningham Foundation, committed to fulfilling the Moore and Bettis family legacy of building the great state of Idaho, by the Friends of Idaho Public Television, by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. To find more information about these shows, visit us at idahoptv.org.